Welcome to the Unconsumed podcast. I'm Lee Corning. I'm here with my very special guest, Bruce Jones. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lee.
Hey, so Bruce, it's funny that you're here and talking to me today because, A, I met you in Chicago. You were actually my entrance point into the software world at all, right? So I was trained in a bond floor, and I talk about this in episode 15, where I had a conversation with a guy at the Sears Tower. This is the guy.
I thought it was in my basement. I remember in my basement talking to you.
Well, I remember playing Super Smash Brothers with your son in the basement, and then a few weeks later, we had a meeting in the Sears Tower.
Interesting.
This is like 11 years ago, so
probably more like 20 years ago. But anyway, no.
Am I getting that old?
How old are you? Yes. Go ahead.
I'm 33 now.
Okay, I guess 11's probably right.
The years are ticking out. Okay. Well, my career is only about 12 years old, 13 years old. So yeah, that's about it.
Wow.
So, Bruce, the cool thing about you is that you have like a kind of a world-class sales career history, and I want to hear all about that. And I know that a lot of the people that watch these podcasts are interested in how that's played out. And right now you are the Chief Revenue Officer and Executive Vice President at Civitas Learning.
That's right.
And you have a history that extends way beyond that. For instance, I worked for you at IBM. I worked for you at HP. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us about a little bit what happened before Civitas?
Well, sure. Prior to Civitas, I was at HP, which became HP and HPE,
mm-hmm.
HP and HPI, and then HPE spun off Enterprise Services, which is now DXC. And then they sold software to Micro Focus. So I literally worked at this company for 7 years, and I had 5 different business cards. So
right.
Very fascinating experience. But it is actually, when you think about what Meg Whitman did with HP, there's a really good story there versus IBM, because she broke the company up, and for the shareholders, it was the right thing to do.
Right.
But prior to HP, I was at IBM for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Prior to IBM, BMC Software for 12 years. And BMC's who moved me from Houston to Chicago, where we met. And then prior to BMC, I was at Unisys for 9 years. And that's where I started my software sales career. First hardware, then moved into software. And then out of college, I was worked for Ernst & it was Ernst & Winnie at the time, now Ernst & Young.
Okay.
And I was a CPA. I passed my CPA exam. I did a tax return on someone in sales and thought, I'm in the wrong profession. So literally, as a CPA, it was going to take 10 years. Back then, it was if you make 6 digits, you're really killing it.
6 digits?
Yeah, 6 digits, yes.
Okay.
No, it's probably 1 digit off today. But back then, to be a partner in a CPA firm, yes.
For whatever reason, I had it in my mind that you were saying 600. Like
no,
if you made 600, that was
six
good.
Digits. No, 6 digits. So $100,000 or more, that was really crushing it.
Well, that's still doing great.
Yeah. Well, I think 7 digits is better today, but yes, 6 digits is good.
Yeah, I'd agree. So Civitas is EDU, or education play. And
Yes.
is that why you're wearing the jersey today?
It is. Well, it's that, and it's because TCU's on College Game Day tomorrow, and I'm just we actually at Civitas we are exclusively, we sell to higher ed, and so on Fridays we represent our colors.
Okay.
And so people wear their team jersey or T-shirt or
It's whatever you like rather than where you went, right?
Basically, yes, because I did not go to TCU, but my son went to TCU, and so I adopted them.
Did he get a scholarship?
He did get a scholarship. He got a very good scholarship.
All the way, or did you pay the money?
I paid room and board, and the rest was free. And TCU is not cheap, so it was a good deal. So,
yeah, I was gonna say if that's like a dad joke, because we're like, you wear the jersey and you're like, you didn't go there, but I gave him a whole bunch of money. That totally counts.
Well, so Civitas, the other thing we do, which is tradition, every employee has a pennant hanging up over their cubicle or in their office, where they went to school. I actually have 4 pennants. And the reason my thinking is I have Rhodes College, where I went to,
right.
And I have University of Houston, where my oldest son graduated. I have Wheaton College, where my middle son graduated, and I have TCU, where my youngest graduated. Because in my thought, my money went to all of those places, so I should have a pennant.
I agree.
So, yes.
See, that's my dad logic now.
Yes, you're on the right path there. I did tell my kids I'm paying for 4 years. After that, you're on your own, and that was a brilliant decision. You should honor that one.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to make the play where it's like I'm going to see if I can't build in some like internet school or some like go get your diploma. But if you want to get education on something that's cutting edge, like you're going to have to go over here.
So it's funny. I go back to you mentioned Jake and TCU. I had always told the boys that if you get a full ride to a college, we'll go to the dealership, just kind of in joking. And then when Jake got the offer from TCU, he's like, let's go. I'm like, well, I had to start, I was backpedaling. It's not any dealership. He's like, that's not what you said, Dad, dealership. I'm like, whoa, wait. So we had to put a budget together, and he came out pretty nice. So
okay, what dealership was it?
Audi. So
oh yeah, Audi will kill you.
Yeah, I know. That's what he chose, but it wasn't a brand new Audi, so it was worked out.
Did you have to pay for the oil changes?
There's a story behind that. No, I did not have to pay for the oil changes. And then he, at one point in time, not too long ago, did not change the oil for a while, and it ran out of oil. And usually, when that happens to a car, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, I had an Audi for about a year, and the oil changes were like 6 or 7 times what it cost to change the oil into my truck.
Yeah, he just didn't change the oil. I think that's probably.
Yeah, well, it's expensive. So if you're a young guy, you don't have much cash, you're like,
Yeah.
I'm not paying 3x on that, 4x, whatever it is.
He didn't factor that into the equation. And it is kind of interesting, since we're on kids. I'll tell you, Matt, who you know, Matt in high school and college always had odd jobs that always paid cash. And so he didn't really have a job where you got a check. And his first job out of college was at IBM, which is a story in itself. But at IBM, he called me the first day I got the paycheck and said, Dad, IBM didn't pay me right. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure they did. He goes, no. I added up what the letter says, and I looked at what they paid me. That times 24 does not equal what they said.
Yes.
And I said,
welcome to the show, bud.
I said, are you looking at net or gross? He says, what's the difference? And then he said, I hate Obama. And I'm like, well, it's really not Obama's fault per se. And then he said, what's FICA? And I'm like, okay, so we had an education there. So,
yeah.
And then that's when he became a very conservative financial voter. So,
well, yeah, that's it's funny that's something that happens to anyone that ever comes into a job where they make a few bucks, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that it was so great of a percentage. And the better I do, the worse it gets.
Yes, it's right.
So like the top brackets are like 38
Crazy.
ticks now. Yeah, it's unreal. And for sales guys, we're sales guys. The not capital gains, but the tax rate on commissions is like almost 50%.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
So like you hear guys talking about the $1 million deal, and then you work out their percentage, and then they get half of that, and you're like, eh.
I actually, when I was at BMC, there was a guy that it was the first $1 million check. He got a really big sale. And so he thought he'd pay his house off, and he did. What he didn't realize, he actually bought a house and paid it off, but the taxes on the house don't go away.
Right.
And so it's not. You're not. You could say you're debt free, but when you have a house, then the taxes are $60,000 a year. You still have a pretty heavy note. So it's all qualified. So.
That's funny. Is this in Chicago or Houston?
No, this is Houston. Yeah.
Okay, so is he in like he probably bought himself a 5,000 square foot house, bunch of land.
He did, yeah. Down south of Sugar Land, yeah. And then he realized, and he paid cash for it, and then he realized I still owe a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
that's the beauty of living simply, is if you can stay down right where you belong, then it's very sustainable.
Well, I mean, that goes back to the notion of debt. And if you stay out of debt, you're way better off. Which is interesting in sales. You think as a sales leader, you want your salespeople to be hungry and to want more. You generally do not want them living off their base salary. You'd really prefer them to have commissions.
You want a little discomfort.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Not that they're going debt head over heels, but also that there's a little bit of discomfort. That's a good way to say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been in sales management for the first time ever, and I'm like noticing some of these things that are like, how do you create a little extra hunger, a little extra urgency? And I had a friend who interviewed at a company, and he was saying, I told the VP of sales, or the guy who was doing the interview, that I wanted a boat and I wanted a fancy watch, and the guy's eyes lit up, and he's like, "You're on." I was like,
there you go.
I would never hire you if you said that.
Yeah. It's funny.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I mean, and actually, it's funny you say sales management. I think the hardest job in sales is a first line sales manager.
Yeah.
And you're in between upper management and the individual contributor who have more emotional needs, and you spend a lot more time with them. I think when you begin to manage managers, it's a whole other ballgame of simplicity, frankly.
Really?
That goes back to having the right people on the team too. So that's because right now I've gone for the first time in my career to a small company. Civitas is $30 million, TR total revenue, and our annual recurring revenue rather. And so that from IBM, HP, Unisys, it's a whole other world for me. So I'm doing my startup day. So it's fun.
Well, I'm glad you found your way to us.
Yeah. Yes.
I shouldn't say that because did the Amazon and the IBM and the HP too. I followed you around for like 6 years, Bruce.
You have followed me around, so it's I don't know. It'll just be a matter of time. I may need to come work for you, actually.
Hey, I'm hiring.
Are you hiring? Okay, we may need to talk. So,
hey, for the record, all the folks at Civitas Learning, Bruce is looking for jobs. So, like, tell me about the beginning. So, like, one thing I think that's really interesting is I see a lot of guys and girls that are in the sales world or any job in general. I guess actually I'll make this real wide, is that people that have the CPA as the bedrock of their career seem to do very well in rising to the top. And my theory is, and you can tell me if this is off base or not, is I think if you can understand how organizations account for things, it helps you understand value that much better. And additionally, it's like, so if I told you as a CPA, we want to buy $1 million worth of laptops, and here's the reasons why it needs to be done on this day rather than this day. Like you can use that to predict what organizations will do. And laptops is a nonsense example, but like think of it as a software deal or marketing spend or something like that. Do you think that's valid, or do you think that's just something I'm picking up out of the ether?
I tend to think the CPAs, they tend to be more analytical.
Yeah.
They are good with detail, with numbers. And I think, the value piece of it is, well, I mean, generally in sales, if you don't have the right value proposition, you won't get the sale most of the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that there could be some correlations there. I think, frankly, though, if I go back to me out of college, I went to a school where the big CPA firms came in the fall and they extended offers. So I had my job, so September, October of my senior year, my job was already secured for the following June. And it was kind of a very unique situation. So in accounting,
that is unique.
Yeah, in accounting, well, part of it was a very hard school to get into. I played football there, so it wasn't that I was super smart. That was my luck to get in there.
It's good to be Bruce Jones.
Yeah. So, but when I saw that, like this is a pretty good career, and so that's why I thought the CPA was the right route to go, and a good job. I'll tell you, it's quite interesting because after a year, I'd passed the exam, and a Sunday school teacher actually mentioned he had a job. My brother, who's a year and a half older than me, he had worked at IBM for about a year and a half, and he said you ought to talk to Dempsey about, it was Burroughs Corporation at the time, which became Unisys. Okay. And so that Sunday afternoon, I just pinged him and talked to him more about the job and decided to go do it. And as the struggle I had, and I still have today, of the pluses and minuses, I wrote down what are the positives of Ernst & Winnie versus Burroughs. And I decided to do it, but I will tell you at the time, saying I'm an accountant for a big 8 accounting firm.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of pride with that.
Right.
And versus I'm a sales rep for the Burroughs Corporation, which a lot of people hadn't heard of. Mm-hmm. And yet I will tell you the first year I doubled my earnings the first year as a sales rep for Burroughs, and it increased every year since then. And the time at Unisys, it was amazing what I made versus the accounting. But it wasn't as a, quote, prestigious of a job. And I think that's the mystery of sales. Right. Is people don't go to college to get a degree in sales. Right. They get a degree in accounting, a degree in marketing. But think about, very few universities offer a degree in selling.
Have you ever heard anyone doing that? I don't think I've heard
There's very few. There's just a handful that do. Yeah. So the one-offs. But it's not pervasive.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd never even heard of it at all. So I get a lot of calls from young folks asking. So I'll tell you this. I'll take a step back. Is like when I came to you in the point in my career where I was like, I got to make a change here because this isn't going to last forever.
I think you told me that the average lifespan of someone in that profession was like 32 or something.
So traders talk in like extreme terms. And like if you turn on CNBC, there's a guy named Rick Santelli on there, and he's like, the yield curve is going to explode. And like he's drawing on a piece of paper, and it's like nothing explodes ever, but it's an extreme term, right? So the average career length in trading pits is like 32 years old max. Yeah. But obviously there are guys that blow that out, and there's guys that keep that average nice and low. But yeah, if you're like 26, 27 and it's not going the way you want it to go at this moment, it's very easy to see how this could get poor. And you see these guys that like blow out every day. Yeah. Which is like, I've seen so many guys, I use the term die out here, and I don't want to be next.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, and even back when you and I talked 11 years ago, there's this profession of selling software. So not just selling, but selling software, which is a very lucrative selling position. And if you think about why that is, it's not easy to sell.
Right.
I mean, if I'm selling you hardware, I can show it to you, you can touch it, you can use it. Software, I'm describing it. Now I can let you sometimes trial it or use it, but sometimes not. Like in the SaaS world, I can't really let you try my software. I can show it to you, but then you have to kind of trust that it works. So it's a much different sell.
Yeah, it's a very involved thing. And so the point I was making a second ago is because you stepped in without any benefit to yourself and said, here's kind of what you should do. Talk to this guy. I have made it a point to do that like a couple times every year for somebody.
Cool.
So, I'm trying to spin it back because this will help my kid out someday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we're trading. So I figure when guys and girls that are very young, or like I consider young people college kids now. The youngest people I know, other than my own children, are my niece and nephew, and they're seniors in high school, juniors and seniors. So that's about as low as it goes. But anytime someone's unsure what to do for school, I always say, if you can't decide, get an accounting degree, because I've known so many guys with accounting degrees that are doing not accounting, but just fine. It's
a great launching pad into a lot of careers, no doubt about it.
Is there anything else you've seen around that is similar, where it's like, if you don't know what to do and you want to throw up an accounting class, is there anything like that?
Well, I think it a little bit depends on your profile, but right now, computer science is very hot.
Yep.
Analytics, not just because it's what I do right now, but there is so much data in the world right now, and it's growing it exponentially.
Yep.
And now to be able to take tools and run analytics on data, interpret it, and do things. A lot of what Civitas does in higher ed is we run analytics on schools' SIS systems with all the student data, and they have tons of data. We go back historically, and we'll take 5 years of data, and then we'll tell you who are the high-risk students, who are students that are in the term in higher ed is persistence or retention. And this is all public. You can Google any school and tell you what their persistence rate is, public schools.
Okay, can you define, because a lot of people are hearing this for the first time. So persistence rate is like people that hang in?
Persistence means that you persisted to the next semester.
So it's like quarter over quarter.
Yes, but there would be a freshman persistence rate. How many of your freshmen persisted to become a sophomore or second semester freshman?
Okay.
And then there's a graduation rate. They track it by 4 years and 6 years.
Okay.
And the average graduation rate today in U.S. colleges is 55%.
So really?
55% of incoming freshmen graduate. That's horrible if you think about it.
That's really bad.
So what's happening in states like Texas and California and Ohio and Florida is performance-based education. In fact, the governor of California just implemented this year, is that we are not going to give you money unless you perform. So that means graduate kids. That means persist kids. And so there's a lot of pressure on these universities to change their habits and what they're doing. So Civitas with no nonsense, I can tell you, if you're a first generation or no intelligence, just to give you an opinion.
Yeah.
If you're a first generation person of color, freshman student, some people would say, well, you're at risk of persisting or not persisting.
Okay.
We would run analytics and say, really, it's not, and say you had 3,000 of those. We would tell you it's not 3,000, there's 300 that are really at risk, and it's because of all these other factors. And it could be I'd say we look at like 400 different metrics, things you wouldn't think of. And I'll give you an example real quick of that is, two students, everything's identical. They both have 3.0s.
Okay.
They're the same. They're not the same, and here's why. This is in the fourth semester. First semester, one student made a 4.0. Second semester, 3.0. Third semester, 2.0. Other student, 2, 3, 4. Which one is going up? One is crashing.
Right.
Something's going on with the one that's crashing. So which one? You don't need to intervene to both of them. You need to intervene to the one that's crashing, and you need to reach out to them. So we give our schools, we call them nudges, how you can nudge the student. And there's some really cool stories where we've saved kids to help them get across stage. Our company's mission is, we call it the Million More. It's 1 million more students graduating per year by 2025. Okay. So that is what we're built around. So yeah, it is. And it really is the higher ed is they've got to perform and they're getting their funding cut. So how do they do that? And another little tidbit, 40% of these student success initiatives that institutions do don't work. But the problem is they don't know which 40% don't work.
How do they not know?
Well, because higher ed, they'll start a program. Let's do this program. This will work, but they don't ever measure the success of the program.
Okay.
So what we do is we do advanced machine learning, and then we go in and we analyze the data. We run the analytics, then we look at it, and we come back and give them actions on. We tell you the impact of it. Here locally, Austin Community College, they opened a math tutoring center up in this area, and they just using our software. There's a 17% greater. The persistence of the kids that go to the tutoring center is 17% higher than the average student or the students that don't go. So to Austin Community College, it's like they want to get your kids to the tutoring center. It will help you be successful in math. And so knowing how to help kids know what to do, especially the millennials and the kids that are going to college today, how do we help them be more successful?
Right.
So that's a lot about Civitas. So yeah, I don't know how much that's on selling, but it's fascinating work that we do right now.
Yeah.
And it's making a difference. And I would tell you, Lee, it's interesting. Having sold infrastructure software my whole career,
right.
I'm actually now, for the first time, I'm selling software that actually changes lives, which is pretty cool if you think about that. It really does change lives.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was just like queuing up in my own head. I was going to say, like, this is one of those rare times where the positive for both sides is so clear.
Yeah.
It's like you as the university have no choice but to make sure these numbers go up. You as the kid need to see this journey through.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, I can't think of a lot of things in life that are more damaging to a career than to like go to college for 2 years and then stop.
Yeah.
Because you've got all that debt for 2 years and nothing to show for it.
Well, and I tell you one of our tools is a degree planning tool, and one of the things we found out is a lot of kids have credentials that they don't know they have. Because if you have to manually go in and figure out what you have, you might actually have a second minor or be one class away from a second minor just by being able to run tools against the system to automate it versus manually doing it.
Like
so
going to see your advisor kind of thing?
Yeah, going to see your advisor, they may miss it.
Right.
Let's let automation do things for us versus our heads and our minds. Now, it is interesting. Higher ed, and this is my first foray into this vertical.
Right.
They're like a little bit behind the times. They don't operate the same way the rest of us do in the commercial world.
Yeah.
But that said, though, they care. They're in this profession because they care.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So I have these conversations. I've always been in commercial side of the business, which is just like guys selling stuff to make money so that they can do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And do it faster or better or provide value for shareholders. But then I talk to folks that are in like healthcare and they're like, our job is to save lives. And I was like, that sounds much more noble than what I'm doing.
Until I got to Civitas, it made a whole lot more sense to me here than it had before. And essentially, if I go back just to my career, I grew up in Houston, Texas, and when you and I've talked about this before, I played football in high school, and back then high school was 10th grade when it started. But in 10th grade,
really,
I remember going to middle school was 7, 8, 9 back in the day.
Really? Okay, sorry.
So now you know something. At least it was in Texas. So, but I remember when we were going to high school in 10th grade, and our football team was probably 60% white, 20% Hispanic, 20% African American, but it was an inner city HISD school. We didn't know the difference. We were just kids and teammates and football players.
What's HISD stand for?
Houston Independent School District.
Okay, gotcha.
So kind of near downtown Houston High School, and so that was just life. And then in the summer after my 10th grade year, my dad told us we were moving to Memphis, and like Memphis, I didn't know where it was. So it's in Tennessee now. Yeah, a little
south of Mason-Dixon, a little north of Chattanooga.
Yeah, it was an interesting change. So I remember we moved there, didn't even have a chance to say goodbye to our school friends. We just packed up and moved to Memphis. He had taken a job up there, and my brother was a senior in high school. I was a junior, and went from that kind of very diverse school to a school that was 99.9% white. And I don't believe I really grew up in Houston as kids. We didn't really have rednecks. This notion of I didn't have a concept of a redneck until I lived in Memphis. There's people that were just mean because you were different. And
it's funny the term redneck. So like I think redneck, and I'm like, okay, so they like fishing, and they probably work outside, they go hunting. Like, is there a different? Like, is that a derogatory?
That's interesting.
Thing?
No, I just think a redneck is being mean.
I didn't have that placed at all.
Yeah, that's maybe it's because I experienced it, and that's kind of what they considered them. So they did all that stuff too, and snuff and chew and don't smoke, drink, or chew, or go with girls that do. I think that was what. So anyway, so we in fact I joked the only good thing that came out of Memphis was my wife, but
is that where you met your wife?
Yes, I met my wife. Well, I actually met her in North Carolina, but we were camp counselors. That's probably a non-Stells related story.
Well, then Memphis has no positives.
It has positives. Just in case anyone from Memphis is watching this,
we don't do very well in Tennessee.
I still have friends in it. Well, you can see why. No. So I still have friends there. But I would tell you what I reflect back on my life. I've been on the board of an organization in Chicago for, gosh, maybe 14 years, 13 years now, I think.
Right.
And it's named IC Stars, little I, little C Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how this weaves your life together. Because I would say I got on that board originally because there were CIOs on the board. And if you gave so much sponsor money, you could get on the board. So I basically bought a board seat. So I could go to the boardroom with CIOs, which was a whole other dynamic.
And they're all local, and you're selling
that's where I sell to. Yeah,
makes perfect sense. Yeah.
And made some great friends. Well, then after I got on the board and I understood the organization better,
Right.
I found myself falling in love with the mission. And even though I live in Austin and been here coming up on 3 years, I'm still on the board of IC Stars. So Inner City Stars, what we do is we take inner city Chicago kids, we teach them IT, leadership, social skills, and then we get them jobs. And what we tell the CIO community is we have smart kids in Chicago. We'll train them if you'll hire them. Rather than send the jobs overseas,
Right.
why don't we get let's get these kids the jobs and give them a chance. And our success stories are phenomenal. If you go to the website, icstars.org, you can read some of the stats. But
Yeah, I'll put it in the description below.
yeah, that'd be great. Some of the first person in the family to own a home. We have it's just 20 to 35, 40 or so like that.
Uh-huh.
But the program itself is I'll just give you a little flavor on it, because it ties back to the lessons you learn in life and
Right.
things we've learned from these kids as well. They come in, we put them in 3 groups. It's about 20, I want to say about 24 in a cycle.
Okay.
We'll lose 4 during the cycle because there's certain rules. Number 1 rule, no tardies. If you're tardy, you're out. And the reason is because when I get your job at Allstate, you can't be late.
Right.
If the train's late, you have to take an earlier train. And there's some really sad stories. One story in particular I remember is where a girl, her boyfriend was jealous of her getting this job. And he unplugged her alarm clock one night, so she overslept. And she came in late, all harried, and we kicked her out of the program. She can come back the next semester, or next cycle. We call them cycles. And it seemed really harsh, and everyone was really, really mad at our CEO at the time. But her point is, he's not doing her a favor. What happened later on is she ended up breaking up with the boyfriend because he didn't have her best interest in heart. He didn't want her to be successful.
Not at all.
Yeah, you see that. But she wouldn't have seen that if we would have given her a pass. And
you're right.
Yeah, and see that piece. But I tell you, IC Stars has done great work and this in life in teaching these kids. But the program, real quick, is the kids come in, they form 3 teams. The first week, at the end of the week, Friday at 5 o'clock, back up a second. 3 teams pick a project leader.
Okay.
They get their laptops, they get their email set up. 5 o'clock Friday, at the end of the first week, the project leader gets an email. It's an RFP. And they have a meeting Monday morning at 9:30, and 10, the 3 different teams, with the RFP committee. So what happens is almost every cycle, one project manager.
What's RFP mean for the record?
Thank you. Request for proposal.
Right.
So request for proposal, it's from Allstate or Grainger or some Chicago-based company, and they
Right.
want you to build them a website to do something.
Okay.
And so the team that sees it, they come in on Saturday, they work on it. And they get prepared for Monday. They plan the meeting out, they plan the questions, and they're prepared. One team doesn't see it because 5 o'clock Friday, I'm gone. I'm home. Don't look at it. They get it Monday morning. Why are y'all dressed up? And so the lesson in life is you have to be wired in. And this applies to sales as well. You have to be wired in. And actually, I'll diverge a little bit. One of my pet peeves to my sales team is don't use out-of-office replies unless you're on vacation. Because every meeting, have you been in a meeting with people, how often do they look at their phone? All the time.
Yeah.
So out-of-office replies are really not necessary because you're going to look at your phone anyway, and you're going to know if it's important. If it is, you'll respond. So what's the point of an out-of-office reply? Unless if you're on a long plane flight that doesn't have Wi-Fi, which is rare, then maybe perhaps it would make sense. Or you're in Europe or Asia, then maybe it makes sense. But I think just U.S. proper, I don't see the value of it.
Funny story on that. I landed in Toronto maybe 6-7 weeks ago. We land, my phone is already on because I've just got it in airplane mode, flip airplane mode off. I get all the texts and emails.
You put your phone in airplane mode on the plane? I'm impressed.
Thank you. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I had my Nintendo game out though.
Okay.
So I turned my phone back on, and it just the messages pour in, and then the last message comes about 2 or 3 seconds later, and it says, "Welcome to Canada. You've incurred a $500 bill since you landed." I was like,
because you didn't have international coverage.
No, it was nasty.
Well, so it's kind of funny when I had worldwide jobs at Civitas. I'm not Civitas, at HP, and so my phone was international. Well, and HP actually paid the bill. I never got the bill.
Right. That was really nice at HP.
Yeah,
by the
it
way.
was. Yeah,
and the car, the free cars was very nice.
I can't believe they still do that. But
that's one of the only spots.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we
anyway,
just hired a guy from HP, and he had to turn his car in. I was like, oh, I forgot about
you
that.
forget? Yeah, you have to go buy one. I actually, we lived in downtown Chicago before we moved to Austin, and I didn't have a car. And the first 2 years here, while I worked at HP, I didn't have a car either because I just Ubered everywhere.
Right.
And then I got the Civitas job, and I have to drive downtown, so I had to go buy a truck. That's when I bought the truck. So,
Yeah.
But
I remember
back up a
that.
second.
You were driving around on a moped there for a while.
I do have a Vespa too, because that's part of keep Austin weird. You're supposed to keep. I figured a big guy like me on a Vespa would be kind of weird. So.
It was weird. You did it.
So I'm just trying to
You
pull it
did your
off.
part.
I'm trying to contribute.
Well, next time you see one of those people with those T-shirts on, you can be like, you don't need to tell me. I got it.
Well, I want to tell you my sad story on travel, though. So I was going to London with Civitas. I didn't really dawn on me that the phone wasn't going to work over there because it wasn't international.
Right.
And I realized this when I got on the Heathrow Express to go into London, and it was, oh, yeah, my phone doesn't work. So I knew I needed to call AT&T.
Right.
My mode on London, when you do the overnight flight and there's a nonstop from Austin, which is really nice, is I go to the hotel, I lay down, try to sleep for an hour, then I get up, shower, and go for the day. So I got to the hotel. It was not the normal Marriott Hilton. It was some local, the Montcalm Hotel, I think is what it's called. And my room wasn't ready. That was the first sign.
I never heard of that hotel.
Yeah, me neither. And I won't ever stay there again. Because what happened was I ended up laying down. I got up and I was about to, I finally got in my room, and about an hour later, I laid down, took my nap, was about to get in the shower when the fire alarm went off. And I am not as good of a rule follower as you, because I actually never leave the hotel room when the fire alarm goes off. But I am in London, and then a guy came up and down the hallway, pounding the door, everybody out, everybody out. I'm like, oh, I probably should get out because what could be happening?
It could be a fire.
It could be a fire. So I leave the hotel room. Electricity went off. And electricity, I decided to go to, found a pub where I get Wi-Fi, so I get on my phone.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, when the electricity went out, I was on the phone with AT&T about trying to get the international coverage added to my phone. What happened was...
You were on the hotel phone, not the cell phone.
No, I called AT&T. You can call the pound 66.
Okay, gotcha.
I was talking to them, and then the phone went out because I was on the phone because of Wi-Fi. So that's how I was able to use the phone.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so it went dead, and I didn't get the national coverage yet. So went to a pub, came back about 2 hours later, electricity's still out. And at this point in time, I told my team I'd cancel the meeting I was going to have that afternoon because I was just hadn't showered and it was a mess. And
right.
And by the way, I just threw on my dress shoes without socks when I left the hotel. This comes back into play later. So,
dude, I told you about that.
Yeah, I know you did. It was not good when you're sweating. By the way, this is during a heat wave in London too, so it's really hot.
Yeah, so, you're gonna want to be careful for that.
Yeah. To make a long story longer, I ended up getting back to the hotel around 9:30 at night. They told us about 10 o'clock that you couldn't stay there that night. We needed to find another hotel.
What? Did they book it for you?
No. And so furthermore,
be gone.
Well, yeah. Well, they'll help you, but there was a long line of people. Well, I actually had dinner with a guy with 2 young kids that was beside me, and we were talking about it, and he had a flight the next morning to Paris. And it's good. Shows you why you should network when you're at dinner with people, because when they finally decided to let us go get our stuff one at a time. This is like a 10-story hotel. And so, but they decided that people that have children go first. So this guy that I was sitting by started to go, and I'm going right behind him. Is not a rule follower, by the way. But they said, "Sir, wait." And I said, "I'm with him." And he said, "He's with me." And so I said, "Thank you." Yes. But anyway, to make a long story,
this is Uncle Bruce.
I know. But the challenge was I found out how dependent you are on your phone.
Yes.
I couldn't call an Uber. I couldn't book another hotel. And I had to have Wi-Fi. So I was asking, does anyone have a hotspot on their phone?
Right.
And if someone did, and they finally helped me stand by them, I could do everything with the hotspot. But anyway, that just is a long story of travel. So
traveling international, if you're not really used to it, is extremely difficult.
Well, that and the time zones and all those adjustments, yeah.
So there was like at your time. So like, let's talk to your career a little bit when you were at IBM. So you were North America's director, or just America's, or how does that work?
So yeah, if I actually went back, so BMC Software. I went to BMC Software from Unisys, and this is pertinent to you since your age, and I want you to tell you what I did. I was Susan and I were talking about this, and I don't know what we were thinking, other than God probably kicking us in the back. But we moved from Memphis, Tennessee, when I was 32 years old. Had 3 boys, ages I want to say 7, 5, and 3.
Okay.
Both parents lived in Memphis, and we took their grandkids. And at 32 years old, we moved to Houston, Texas. And I look back now and think, what were we thinking? I mean, why did we do that? And it was for a sales job. It was for a sales job moving from Unisys to BMC Software. Part of it was Unisys at the time was laying off people every quarter and just making money by cutting expenses. And I was never in jeopardy of getting laid off, but I did learn And for folks that are sales leaders, when you lay people off, it's not just them that it impacts the other people at the company. And that's what happened to me. That's the reason I left Unisys, is it just wears on you when you see people losing their job. And I think ever since then, I have very little empathy at all, by the way. But in this case, I do for the people that aren't let go.
Sometimes I think empathy is overrated, by the way. This is a new thing.
An unempathetic person.
Too much is over the top.
Yeah, but we moved to Houston. That's where I got my first management job, was at BMC Software, and it was a phenomenal company. And they moved me to Chicago.
BMC did.
They did. Okay. They did. And so after 3 years in Chicago with BMC, I moved over to IBM. And never thought I would work at IBM, but just ended up being there. So
the progression at BMC was like, I'm looking at your stats here. Yeah. You started as a rep there, right? So
covering Canada, ironically.
Dude, first job was covering Canada.
Selling to banks in Canada.
Me too.
What? Whoa! What a parallel! Just be a matter. How old are you?
I'm 33.
Probably time to move to Memphis. So,
yeah. Chelsea, it's time to go to Memphis.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's funny. In fact, I made me think of a sales story. I'm sure I shared with you the Bank of Montreal story, probably.
This is my favorite story of all time.
Oh, this is a great story.
I remember this from the forever.
I think it was one of the fastest sales cycle, and the lesson behind this story is how when you get to the pain and the person has the pain, the sale will go really fast.
Yes.
Depending on how great the pain is. And what it was is back in the day, banks had to take their systems down.
What year was this? Because this is IBM days, no?
Yeah, no, this was BMC. This would have been in probably the mid 90s.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I went to BMC in 93, 2005. Yeah, so it would have been probably 95, 96. Uh-huh. So back then the DB2 systems, they had called it was a batch window.
DB2 is a database at IBM.
Database number 2. Mm-hmm. And you would have to take the database offline. And while it was offline, this specific application was the credit card approval application. Well, if you think about and this is not like it is today with the chip and how fast it is.
Right.
But back then, you swiped your credit card, or they did kind of.
They did that thing where it's like
that kind of thing, or they did that. You heard the modem dialing on the phone,
right,
to get the approval. and so what happened? What the Bank of Montreal was doing is they had a 2-hour window. 2-hour window during the weeknight. And 1 hour during the weeknight, and then during the weekend it was 2.5 hours.
Okay.
They moved that hour all the time, and very few people knew when the hour was, because what happened was if you used your credit card while it was offline, they just approved it blindly, because they couldn't say batch outage, sorry, we can't approve your credit card, because if you're in Europe or Asia with your Bank of Montreal credit card,
right,
it needs to work, right? Then they came back online and they caught up with the transactions. And so we had come out with a piece of software that would take that batch window from 1 hour on the weeknights, down to 1 minute, right, and on the weekends down to 1 minute. And there was some technology behind it, but that's the high level story. And I remember we were doing the presentation, explaining to them, what we did, how it worked, how it kept the system up and running in parallel while it did the updates and the batch processing. And the one guy in the room said, he turned to his team, he said, "Can we get it installed Monday?" And they're like, or next Monday. And they said, well, no, we have to do a trial. We need to try it. We need to make sure it works. And he turned and looked at us. He looked at my technical guy and said, does it work? Of course, me as the sales rep saying, say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes. and the technical guy did a brilliant job of just going back and saying, let me explain again how the technology is defined, what's happening, and how it works. And he did it. And he drew it up on the board again. And the guy said, he looked at his technical team, the DBAs, and said, I need this installed Monday. And they were like, well, we need to have a meeting offline on this one. We need to look at it more. Oh yeah, all the stall and look at it. And so what happened was as we unearthed this and uncovered it, they were losing $10 million a year to fraud. And people, despite their best attempts to hide that window, if you knew that system was down, you could buy all kinds of junk you could come up with bogus credit card numbers. You could just make numbers up and just charge against it, and they approved it.
Right.
And they couldn't trace you because, again, it's a fake card, so there is no key to it. And the camera technology wasn't what it is today. So, today they could get video and figure out probably who you are.
Right.
But back then they didn't have that.
Yeah.
And so the value, when you saw the value, we solved a massive problem for this guy. And so the deal, we really closed the deal in a short period of time, as weeks. And it was a $3 million sale. Of course, I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to save you $10 million a year, we should get more than $3 million. But at the time, I'll take the $3 million.
Do you remember the tagline though?
Remind me the tagline.
So this remains in my brain.
Oh, that's great.
Because it was the first story that you told me. You told me this in the Sears Tower when I was interviewing for my first job, and it is, you were walking out of the meeting and, hold on, let me get this right. You're walking out of the meeting saying, if you guys are losing like $1 million a month, like you need to change this out. And they're like, sorry, we have to go do this and we have to go do that. And you're like, fine, keep fighting with knives. I'll go sell guns to the other guys.
That's right. It was, yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Keep fighting with knives and I'll go sell someone else some guns.
I tell that story like probably twice a year.
I got to tell you, one of my favorite sales captions, and you can Google it, it's just still out around today, is the king that stand up on the hill with his sword, watching all the guys fight with their swords. And behind him is a nerdy-looking sales guy with a Gatling gun. And the caption, the king says, I don't have time to talk to a sales guy. I'm fighting a battle.
Right.
And, this is the classic thing is that I can help you. Sort of what I am with Civitas. I can help you. Let me help you be more successful. I can solve this problem for you. And to me, finding the person that cares, that has the problem, that has the pain, makes the sale go a lot faster. And I'll tell you the other thing. I don't know that you and I have talked about have you read Selling Above the Line and Selling Below the Line?
No, I've heard of that though.
Skip Miller. Yeah, it's Skip Miller wrote the book. It's I think it's a must read for every salesperson.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this. This is a personal opinion. I do not like Skip Miller.
Why?
Because he was a trainer at one of our events when I was in a training thing.
Which company?
Tableau.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's on the internet, so it's on the record. I'm not a big Skip Miller fan, and it's purely character.
Interesting. No, I don't know him at all as a person. Yeah. I just said that so you can find the book.
But yeah, he writes great content.
That aside,
I'll give you that.
Yeah. Well, the content of the book is the.
I should probably edit that out. I won't. But I should.
Irrelevant, but because whether you like him or not, I'd focus more on the content because what he talks about is there's the above the line buyer and the below the line buyer. And if the below the line buyer, in high level summary, they care about feature function. What's it do? How's it going to make my job easier? How's it going to make my life easier? And they're all into the features of the product, but they don't have any money and they can't write a check.
Right.
The above the line buyer could care less about the features and functions. They don't really care about the below the line buyer. This is the executive who's, what's it going to make me? What's it going to save me? How's it going to help me meet my goals, my mission? And so you're selling to two different buyers. Now, depending on who you're talking to, you need to shape your pitch in a certain way.
Right.
And if you're not talking to the above the line buyer, you're wasting your time. I mean, not that you don't need the below the line buyer. You do need them, but they won't buy. They'll kick the tires forever, and you'll have a 10 to 12 month sales cycle. It maybe never close.
So here's something funny. I've never read that book, but the way I describe this is if you're selling toys, it doesn't help you to sell the toy to the kid.
Yeah.
Like they're going to want the toy.
Yeah.
It'll be like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or the Power Ranger. It's like, I want them both. Every vendor can come in here and show me their action figure, and I'm going to be like, yes, I want that.
Yep.
But you have to convince mom and dad.
Yep.
And that is essentially how this plays out.
I don't know if they still do it today, but I remember back when my oldest son he worked retail for a few years at Zoomies. And
that's like shoes and stuff.
Skating, surfing, and skiing, and all the equipment and stuff that goes with it.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
But what he would tell me is at Zoomies, they played 80s music, 80s and 70s and 80s music. But you go to Abercrombie and they play like loud, crazy. So Abercrombie is playing music that appeals to the teenager,
right?
And Zoomies is playing music that appeals to the parent. You think about the parent. If I go to Abercrombie, like I can't.
I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, it's just too loud. Now you go to Zoomies, like this is the Beach Boys or the Beatles. Hang out
here,
yeah, this is good music. And they were, because what you just said, they were catering to the parents. They care about the teenager is not going to give the credit card. Although a girl with her dad's credit card, Andrew said was the best. That was the best customer to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you give a kid a credit card, they'll buy all the things.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, exactly. But you're right. Find the buyer and find the person that has the pain. And that to me is one of the biggest things that most salespeople overlook, is that if you don't know who your buyer is and the person that can write the check, you can spend a lot of time talking to people that will never buy anything from you.
Yeah.
And then that's time wasted.
What do you think about, I ask you this question because you're like one of the more polished sales guys that I've ever come across.
That's nice of you.
Well, I'm not trying to be nice. I'm trying to just tell truths here. What do you think about the kind of reputation of salespeople? Because you hear like salespeople are kind of bundled up all in this big thing, and inside there are the guys that are selling Boeing jets and the guys selling 82 Chevrolet.
Right.
So like people see those all as one thing. Do you have any commentary or any like simple ways to do that?
Well, I can tell you I have two business cards. I have one business card that says Chief Revenue Officer. I have another that says Executive Vice President Partners. We call our customers partners because we partner with you. But that's intentional because sales does come with a reputation that people don't want to be sold to.
Right.
So I think a lot of people like my sales team, they're called Director of Strategic Partnerships. So we want to partner with you to kind of mask that we're salespeople. Now the CRO card I would use if I'm in a negotiation. I'm more than happy for them to know that I care about revenue. But generally, they think you're after revenue. I do think it's a negative.
Yeah.
The flip side depends on who and what you're selling to. The savvy customer knows what your objective is.
Right.
And I think that we use today we use insight sell. We use the challenger sales methodology.
Okay.
Although we're going to move away from that slightly, and predominantly because it doesn't work as well in higher ed. Maybe we may have edited that out, and I'm kidding, but I haven't told my team that yet. I think in part of it is because there's some really good concepts in that sales methodology, but there's good concepts in other ones as well. But there's some things that can come across aggressive. If I'm teaching you insights, if I'm telling you insights, it can be, Lee, let me tell you what you don't know, and you're like, what are you talking about? What I don't know? I'm in academia. I know a lot of things.
I know everything.
Yeah, and who are you?
Let me tell you 900 things you don't know.
Yeah, and I think you've got to be careful how you share insights, and
Right.
it's got to be more an educational methodology. And really in higher ed too, relationships still do matter in higher ed. I don't know in the commercial world if that's the case as much anymore.
Right.
The relationship sell is a thing of the past. I would tend to agree with that, but not in higher ed. So.
See, I don't know. I guess it's open for debate. I think the relationship play is still very strong, especially if, you know what I think has damaged that is the fact that reps move so much. And so it's not you call your rep from Oracle, I'm going to call Oracle in general, and they'll give me whoever it is, and there's no relationship
It's the flavor of the day, yeah.
Exactly. I walked in, I think I've told this story on the podcast one time. I walked into an office in Dallas, and I was the new rep. And I'm like, hi, my name's Lee. I'm this with this company. And he's like, you want to see something funny? He opens up his drawer, and he pulls out a stack of red and white business cards.
Yeah.
He's like, these are all my reps from Oracle. Are you going to be here in 6 months?
No.
And I'm like, well, it's hard for me to say.
Yeah. I think that's that. So hard to have a relationship when there's a revolving door. And I mean, we're in a negative unemployment sector right now.
Yes.
There is a lot of
oh my gosh, you should see some of the stuff flying around in terms of like comp packages for sales reps right now. It's unbelievable. It's like nothing I've ever seen.
Well, go back to your earlier question you asked about like what you should advise people to invest in. And like you can't go get a degree in sales, but go communication. Learn how to communicate. Learn how to
that'll get you in
debate.
I think debate is the most ranked, or what's the term? Underappreciated like game there is.
Yeah.
And it is a game. So like when I see some kid's got a debate on his resume, I'm like, all right, so this is a guy I want to talk to, or this is a girl I want to talk to. So
let me go back to that. When you look at resumes, what else do you look for?
I look for, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this, but I guess I'll open it up a little bit. I look for completion of things. How old is this person? Are they entry level or are they coming?
Sure.
Entry level folks. Okay. So what I look for is completion of their academic process, whatever it was.
Okay.
And then I look for things that demonstrate intellectual curiosity. So if you do a podcast, if you do Udemy or you do Code Academy, or you're a part of some sales organization or something, I think that shows that you care. And then outside of that, I'm looking for some duration of a job at all, because it can be waiting tables, or it can be, and this is for the entry level play obviously, or it can be mopping floors. That's what I did. You just have to show me that you can show up on time And if you can show up on time and you're intellectually curious and you have shown me that you've gone through the educational process in some level, whether it's even online or even a community college, that'll play. Mm-hmm. That's the line I see. And like if you fit above that, like let's talk.
Okay.
If you show me breaks in that, I think it's a little tougher.
Okay, that's interesting.
But it's never, you're never out. There's always a chance. But the people that fall above that line, I'm like, those are the first ones I'm going to.
Yeah, I am, and I'm quite positive. I've told you this before too. I think even when we're talking about different career changes, I look at your story. What's your story? Mm-hmm. How do these jobs build on each other? And how does it fit into the story that makes sense? So you're not like dipping all around. And I agree with you that if you have a lot of short stints, I would say, well, either you can't find what you're looking for, or the companies aren't finding what they're like. And it does come when I look at a resume and you were there like for 18 months and you grew sales by 250%. Well, why'd you leave? If you did that good in year one, why did you leave in year two?
I think one of the things that's driving the people moving around is that there's such competition for the people that can actually run these plays. So if you improve sales by 250%, there's 7 or 8 different companies knocking on your door.
It could be, yeah.
And they will bid for your services.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that today. And we don't, because we're in higher ed, we're not the most generous compensation company in the world because we're in a noble cause.
Good for you, by the way. I said good for you, by the way.
So but it does become hard. But I will say, when I mentioned earlier about our mission, is people that work at Civitas, it is a bit of a sacrifice, but you do believe in what we're doing, and it's kind of cool actually in that regard. Very different than Oracle or IBM or even HP.
Yeah, so. What's very interesting is I've obviously been at HP and IBM, and I worked at a startup of my own and that I worked on with some friends. I'm working on other little things that I do on my own. And then I came to Amazon. And Amazon is a completely different animal because have you seen their 19 leadership principles?
We're one of their highest level partners right now.
Yeah, so you're familiar with these guys. And they have this really cool thing. They call them the leadership principles. And if you read them, they're all publicly available online. They all tie into each other in a really interwoven way, and if you break one of them, you're essentially breaking 7 of them. So that one of them is customer obsession. And so I was watching AWS's reInvent online. When companies do their conferences and they put them online now.
Yeah.
So I dial those up occasionally, just to see what other people are doing. And Andy Jassy, who is their CEO, is on the stage, and he's talking to all the customers of AWS, and he says, my reps will never be hanging out on in your lobby on the night before a quarter is over. And I was just like,
whoa, what is this?
I was like, that doesn't sound like sales to me. So you have my attention for a second. And this is all in the background while I'm doing other stuff. And I'm like, say that again. But yeah, it's just there are some sales cultures that people want to be around. Yeah. If you want to get into Amazon sales, it's extremely difficult. I think there's 8 interviews in this whole process. Yeah. And they don't pay more than anyone else. They pay, I'd say, well, but not amazing. And people want to be there. And there's these cultures that I think are extremely valuable.
Yeah. Have you ever read The Culture Code?
No.
Oh, it's a great book. And it talks about, it goes from whether it's the Marines and some of the elite fighters to the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich and the way he creates culture, but how culture impacts results. And when you get culture nailed down, you solve a lot of things and managing that and having that culture that to me it's openness and honesty. And in sales, lots of times we saw this at IBM a lot, is they don't want the truth. That they want, you want the truth, or you want me to make you feel good? Because I can make you feel good, but that won't be the truth. And I remember so many conversations with upper management, and they don't want the reality.
Right.
And it's just, rather than help you solve the problem because the deal went south or whatever happened, is no, you have to go fix it. And I remember once, this is actually at HP, and I was telling my boss about that, and I made the comment, I said, well, I was getting beat up on something that went south. And I said, well, what do you recommend? And the answer was, that's what I pay you to come up with. I'm like, oh, well, that was very rich. Thanks for your help.
You were in management at this point?
Oh yeah, well I was.
So you were like talking for a rep too. This wasn't even your setup.
Right. No, I was a third line manager at the time, so this was a deal that I forget what happened. Something went south on the deal, and I remember telling the global VP of sales that what happened, and I was like, well, what do you recommend? And it was like, that's your problem. I'm like, oh boy, thanks for your advice.
Right.
By the way, on that topic though, I think another thing that sales gets in the trap of is oftentimes, and I'm going to say this, but I'm also going to say this is a parent issue as well. When our customers have problems, we take their problems and make them our problems.
Yeah.
And I don't have budget. Well, that's not my problem. That's your problem. You just solve that problem, right? I can give you some recommendations on it, but it's your problem to solve. Boards will say, well, I guess I'll discount it more. Because if you don't have, like if it's it's 100,000, you have a budget for 80,000, you have a problem.
Yes.
And oftentimes the sales will say, well, it's got to be 80,000. Why? But it's not my problem that you budgeted less. You need to go get more budget.
Okay.
And so I think lots of times, that's just a simple example, but there's many cases to where you'll take on the problem. And I related the parent example. As teenagers, oftentimes we want to solve our kids' problems because we don't want them to hurt or suffer.
Right.
But if they don't work through their problems, how are they going to learn? And so I think that's the part of it, is that they need to learn.
Right.
And the same with customers is that if you teach your customers, which we're so good at doing in sales, wait till the last day of the quarter, you get a better deal. Right. Yeah. And we've so taught them that. And I am, one of my missions in sales leadership is to break that trend. I believe I can have compelling events in other cases. And I have a rep at Micro Focus, phenomenal rep. He closed the deal on March 24th, wherein in Micro Focus terms, that would be quarter number, let's see, get this right. Quarter two, month two. Quarter two, month two, March 23rd, he closed the deal. Why? Because he had convinced the customer that all things bad happened on the 24th of March. And he built a story, and he got agreement with the customer.
Right.
And by the way, in March 23rd of this year was a Friday. The customer sent the PO over, and we at the time he had the wrong company name on the PO, so it wasn't good. And he had left to drive up to somewhere. He was out of New York. He was driving out of the city for the weekend. He had to turn around, drive back to the office, and fix the problem and resend us the order. And he did. Friday night, March 23rd.
Oh, jeez.
And it was this same rep, by the way, closed another. These were multi-million dollar. This is a $4 million deal. Oh. He closed a $5 million deal on January 19th. And he did it because that was his anniversary date at the company, and he wanted to. And again, I've got several stories where
so
these.
So what did he do to do this? Because
you get mutual agreement with the customer.
Right.
This is the target. This is what we're going to do. And this is where the relationship does come into play.
Yeah.
Having that right level, but also having the confidence that here's why. I had a rep on State Farm. He got agreement in March that let's not do the December 31 dance. Let's agree that we want to spend the holidays with our families. So let's build a map and let's get the deal on December 15th. Mm-hmm. And he did. But constant communication to keep the customer on track to a mutually agreed upon schedule. That's why it worked. And I think that's when you can do it. It is doable to break that crazy hockey stick of end of quarter that we're so good at training. Yeah. And so I think that is that's on us in sales that we create it, but we've got to have the discipline.
We taught the industry how to react to that.
We did.
That's not by accident.
Yeah, and I think if you have the right level of credibility and the right level of you create the sense of urgency, create the reason as to why. So the rep I was referring to that did those two oddball deals, he was just over the top on convincing the customer, no, this is why, and I'm not making this up, and here's why. And he had compelling reasons,
right?
And he had the story put together and executed. And so it was fun to watch him, and I actually learned from him, saying, man, I never would have thought you could do it. The January 19th thing was crazy.
That is funny.
It's my anniversary day.
I'm just proving it to myself and you guys. This will be funny.
Yeah, and he just, but those kind of sales reps are gold.
Right.
Right, and they can make things happen. So,
what do you think makes up that guy? Or that girl, I don't know.
Incredibly, is a guy, incredibly driven, incredibly strategic. To me, I had him and I had a woman in the Bay Area too. Probably the best two reps I've ever been in my organization, and both of them had similar characteristics. They were maniacal about being successful. They wanted to be number one. Okay. Just mad if they weren't number one.
Okay.
They incredibly strategic. In fact, when I put my Facebook page on privacy, it was when my rep, the female rep in California, we were going on a sales call with a guy at Apple, and she was going to wear blue because his wife wears blue on Facebook. And a lot more of the picture, she has blue on more than any other color. So I'm like, how did you do? So she's basically stalking him, and I'm like, holy cow! I got to privatize my Facebook page, and because it's amazing what you can find out about people.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, but just both of these reps, they know their customer inside and out. Mm-hmm. They know who they're talking to. They know their hot buttons. They build a relationship of trust. And I think that's where it really comes into play. And they're seen as that advocate. I think when you're in a sales or pre-sales position, and the customer trusts you, you know, and you can't break that trust either. You have to be honest with them. And if you're the lying sales rep, you'll never make it there, right? They have to
the lying.
Lying. If you
lying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can, if you break trust with the customer, then you're broken.
Well, here's what I tell guys when we're talking about this is like, yeah, you might be able to jam a deal down once, but you'll never do a deal there ever again.
Yeah.
It's like it's very bad farming.
Yeah, it is.
It's like you can get it to grow corn one time, but when you picked it, you salted the earth.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
So maybe salting the earth is not a good example because someone else is definitely going to pick that corn.
I have used the phrase before that, well, you know, the next rep that takes the territory will appreciate the work you did on that deal. It didn't close. So they'll appreciate. I actually use that with myself too. I'll say the next vice president will appreciate that deal coming in next year.
Yeah.
So,
that's funny.
yeah, I do think the other thing, I see this a lot too, is the never give up attitude. That's, I think, is a key ingredient of a successful seller. Mm-hmm. Is in the face of someone telling you what won't happen, you don't give up, and you know you continue to fight, and look for another angle, look for another avenue, but don't give up.
Yeah. So what do you say to the folks when? So this is something I run into in my career sometimes. It's like you go down the tracks and you're trying to do the fight, and now you're stepping on toes because you're trying to find new angles.
Yeah.
When is as a sales leader talking to salespeople, when is it enough?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I had an example just last month where we really made a customer mad. Actually took cookies to the procurement and went behind a secure door to try to get an order. We got the order, but we broke a lot of glass doing that.
Yes,
and I think that is that's where sensitivity has to come in. Yep. With a with the rep and with the team. I'll tell you just personally, one of the things I learned in higher ed, I've shared this with my team, is we had 3 colleges: University of Alabama, Western Kentucky, and Central Missouri. Okay. We had 3 teams of 3 that went to those 3 colleges: an executive, a technical person, and a rep. And I was the executive at Western Kentucky. Our CEO was at one of the other ones, and our co-founder, number 2, was at the other one.
Right.
All 3 deals were forecasted to close in June. And all 3 deals, not only did they not close in June, they went crickets on us and wouldn't talk to us. And I remember laying in bed one night thinking, I've got 3 different teams. They're not dumb people. And we have good technology, and it works. I mean, one of the cool things about it works. I have oodles of examples of it. I know it works. Mm-hmm. And so what happened? And what I realized is I thought about the common denominator of those 3 deals was pressure. We were pressuring them. We were rushing them. And in higher ed, you cannot rush them. You cannot pressure them. And they don't know how to say slow down. You're going too fast.
Right. You have to be self-aware and know this.
Yeah. They just shut down. They just won't. They just ignore you and hope you go away. And so I think that was my lesson in higher ed. They're more sensitive than the average customer would be. Yeah. But I think in general, knowing when you cross that line, because when you cross that line, it is hard to get back.
Right.
When you push too hard. But go back to the common on relationship. If you have respect and mutual respect, they will respond to you. And not to personally, I have tried to. My motif going forward is let's agree that we're going to communicate, and I will be upfront. I'll make a mutual enthusiastic agreement with you,
right?
And that I will agree to you that I will be upfront with you, and I won't play games. But I had asked in return that you would communicate with me, and it's okay to say we're not ready, or we need to go slower, or you're going too fast. But don't give me crickets. And I've had a few of these now. I'm trying this in higher ed space now, and because they're good people, you can get to that point.
Yeah.
They're not as wired in as we are. They don't look at their phones in the meetings. They actually pay attention.
Well, good for them.
Yes, it is.
I'm trying to grow into that.
It's someday. Our future. Yes, exactly. Good luck with that. But it's not getting better. So, it's just a different world altogether. So
yeah. So let me ask you one question, or I'll ask you 2 questions. Yeah. I'll ask this question with a preface, which is I think that the best sales model is a mix of almost everything, and it adjusts on different situations where the personality of the buyer is. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, you mentioned the challenger sale. There are organizations and personalities that you can challenge, mm-hmm. and then there are organizations and personalities that you may not challenge. It's more of an educational play or a spin play. And I think we do ourselves a tremendous disservice by locking into one. Mm-hmm. And I think you would agree. But what would you say is probably the best sales process that you've seen so far?
Well, I think of that as methodology, but yeah, I would totally agree with that, because I think that the
methodology process. Yeah, I mean, you can
I would say the best one is a combination, and it's mm-hmm. what works for you, right? And what works in the market you're selling in, because there's some markets where relationships irrelevant. They don't care. Doesn't matter. Right. There's others where it matters all.
That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've done Miller Hyman, I've done Sandler, I've done Challenger, I've done Insight Selling, and about everyone that's been there. And I personally use a little bit of all of them. It's kind of as you adapt and you read the style. I do believe knowing who you're selling to, knowing their personality, knowing if they're above the line, mm-hmm. all are critical points. And I would tell you that the research you do to be prepared to hit the right buttons, all critical points. Right. The use cases you use, the stories, and on that front, since I mentioned stories, I think that transcends all of the selling methodologies or right. process. Is people remember the stories? They don't remember the facts and figures, and we actually proved this my last kickoff at HP. On Tuesday morning, end of day Tuesday. It was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday thing. End of day Tuesday, I actually brought a guy in from an outside consulting firm to teach about the neuroscience around storytelling and right. how our brains work with stories. And there's actually science behind this. It's kind of proving this out. Yeah.
There's a guy named Ben Zolden who taught me this.
Okay.
You should check him out. His book's right behind you, but proceed, sorry.
Well, that's okay. Well, so what happened, end of day Tuesday, very last thing we did is I stood up and I said, I was in college. I was driving my car down the street in Memphis, Tennessee. I had stopped at a red light. A guy tapped on my window and gave me the hitchhiker thumb, and I shook my head no. And he opened the door and got in because I didn't have my doors locked. Lock your doors, lesson learned. And I said, I'm just going a little bit further down the road. And he said, well, that's okay. Every little bit helps. Just give me a ride. And I'm like, okay. And so I got to where I was turning, and the guy pulled a gun out. And he put the gun in my ribs and said, don't turn.
See, this is you in real life?
This is a true story.
Okay.
In real life. And then this is Tuesday. I'm telling the story to my sales team, 300 folks or so, and I said, and the next thing that happened, the very next thing that happened, I'll tell you Thursday. You're dismissed. So we end the day, they leave, and I mean, a bunch of people came. Whoa! Obviously, I didn't get killed because I'm here, so unless I reincarnated, but that didn't happen.
Or like maybe you got shot, but missed everything. You ever hear those stories where it just like missed everything kind of perfectly?
Right. And so what happened is then on Wednesday, our CEO, we had the big employees are there,
right.
And the CEO got up and he went through his 10 priorities for the year. Boom, and I were 10 different things. So we go through that. We do the whole day Wednesday, the Wednesday night thing. Thursday, we get back in the training session. We did some more things. And then about midday Thursday, Matt got up, the consultant got up and said, okay, I want to go back to yesterday. He's doing his last session on storytelling. I want to go back to yesterday. Chris got up and Chris went through his 10 priorities for the year. What were they? Shout them out, will you? What were they?
Yeah.
Silence.
Yeah.
Silence. Well, come on. Someone's got to know one.
I bet you one random guy tried to name one off and got it almost.
Sort of.
Right?
Sort of. Yeah.
I know that guy. You know that guy too.
The point is it's like no one knows. They'd have to go look it up. And then he said, okay, well, let me try this. End of day Tuesday, Bruce got up. Shout out things you remember from the story. Gun, car, Memphis. They're just throwing them out there. And that just made the point, right? That was 2 days ago. But he connected you. The story was relevant. It was personal. And then I got up and told the rest of the story of what actually happened. And there's a newspaper article that I can show you someday about me. It was leap from car, incident with gunmen. So,
wait, you leapt from the car?
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay, now you gotta look.
This is not. Is this relevant to the sales story? So
Like I was telling you earlier, Bruce,
Okay.
this is the internet. We can do whatever we want.
Okay. Well, so
you're in the car. You're sitting there. A guy got in. You told him no thanks, but he's like, just you're right there.
I actually got to where I was turning. I said, I'm turning here and get out of the car. In other words, and he said, no, keep driving. Put the gun, at my side. I could draw a picture.
So is this like this kind of situation?
Yeah, I'm driving. He's got the gun here, down, and here
below eyesight of other passengers,
down at the waist,
Okay.
And so he told me to turn right, left here. We end up in Orange Mound, and in Memphis, Orange Mound is it's the Fifth Ward in Houston. I don't know where it is in Austin. Maybe somewhere in East Austin. I don't know. It's the area you don't go at night. Okay. So it's like Harlem. And he said, "Okay, turn here." And it was an alley. And I'm like, I can see it's an alley. I'm like, I'm not going down the alley. So I put my hand on the door handle. It was a 71 Chevelle. And I literally could not, my brain and my hand were not talking. And I literally couldn't pick it up. And he saw my hand on the door handle and he said, just drive, take your hand off the door handle right now. And he started screaming. So I drove and he said, all you had to do was go down the alley and I was going to let you go. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's an alley. You could walk down there. We could have been being followed. I'm like, oh, we're not being followed. I'm watching that. I can
assure you that. Yeah.
So at that point, he said he got out of prison and he just wanted to ride. And now he's probably going to just kill both of us. I'm like, oh gosh. I will tell you, I'm praying this whole time too. It's like, I didn't know how to get out of this situation. How do I get out of this?
Good night.
So I said, why would you kill yourself? Someone cares about you. And I started talking about that and he didn't want to talk about that. And I said, God cares about you. Don't talk God to me. I'm okay. I won't do that.
All right, fair enough.
And so then we get back on Poplar Avenue. It's like Main Street in Memphis. And he finally had said, look, you're not a bad guy. Just get me on the interstate going to Nashville and I'll let you go. And I said, okay. I didn't really believe him, but I took him at his word. All the while looking for a police officer or police car. You can never find him when you want one. But I got to where I was in the left turn lane at Poplar and Highland, and the car beside me pulled up and started honking the horn. And I looked over, and it was Mary Calhoun. I've been in Memphis at this time for probably 6 years.
Who's Mary Calhoun?
6 years. I'm going to get there. Okay. Mary Calhoun, Mary and her twin sister Martha were two of the first people I met when we moved to Memphis.
Okay.
And I'd known her the whole time I lived in Memphis. And I'm like, looking scared as I can, not looking over there. I said,
"You don't get a still shot of this and send it to you."
I was like, "You don't want me to look over there, do you? You don't want me to look over there?" And he says, "No, straight ahead." And I'm trying to look so scared. And she later said, Bruce is being rude, and then I almost got killed. She heard the story later, but I turned left on Highland, and I get to where they were going to build an interstate through Memphis, but it was going to go through the zoo, so they never finished it.
Right.
And I kind of got on the on ramp, and I pulled her to the side. He said, "Why are you stopping?" And I said, "Well, you said get you on the interstate to go to Nashville, and you'll let me go." He said, "Well, I'll tell you when to stop. You keep going."
Uh-oh.
And I was at that point saying, "Okay, this is not." The further I get away from the city, the worse this could get. So this is true to Lee. I remember this clear as day. Is I started thinking about how to get out of the situation. I went right to detective shows, and you won't know all of these, but some of your older watchers might.
Okay.
First, there was Mannix. And I knew what Mannix would do. He was kind of a tough detective.
Mannix.
Yeah, and Mannix would somehow swerve the car around, and the guy would hit his head on the glass and they get knocked out. And then there was a Y50, Steve McGarrett. I was totally clear what he would do. He would just bam with his fist and punch the guy, and the guy would drop the gun. I just wasn't sure if that really worked.
Right, yeah.
I remembered an episode of Frank Cannon. Cannon was a big old detective. This is true. I remember clear as day.
Cannon?
Frank Cannon.
Okay.
And he was a big old guy. He was driving on a windy road, and a guy had a gun on him in the back seat. And he started driving erratically, and he said, "Okay, shoot me now, and we both die." But this guy already talked about killing himself, so I was thinking that won't work.
Yeah, that's within the realm of possibility.
Yeah. And then I watched this show every night at 10:30 in college, and it was Rockford Files. And James Rockford, I knew exactly what he would do. He'd jump out of the car.
Okay.
So I knew where this interstate it goes under the loop and it turns into the real interstate. There's a ramp coming over here. There's a triangle of grass. I didn't want to lose my car. So I'm thinking, okay, I will swerve the car. It'll go into the triangle of grass. I will do the barrel roll. This is in January of 1983. And I had a sweater on, like a long sleeve shirt and a sweater vest, or not sweater vest, a sweater.
Okay.
And so it got to the moment of truth. I started to slow down. I was going about 40 miles an hour. And he said, "Why are you slowing down?" I said, "Well, this is the interstate going to Nashville." He said, "I told you to keep going." So at that point in time, it was the moment of truth. And so I pulled the door handle open. I swerved the wheel. I rolled out of the car. I hit this elbow and on both my knees, and I did kind of a barrel roll. And then I popped up and I saw the brake lights. The car didn't go where I wanted it to go, and my thought was he's stopping. So I ran. And this is where I almost died, actually, because I didn't look. I ran across the interstate. and the car's coming the other way. So we're going this way. I ran that way. And not the car that almost hit me, but the very next car was being driven by John Thetford. John and his wife, Rhonda. Rhonda was senior class president of Germantown High School, class of 636, and she knew me. And she said, that's Bruce Jones, who just jumped out of that car and almost got hit by that car, and he ran that way. John's brother was a dispatcher on the Memphis Police Department. This is back before cell phones. And so they went up, got off an exit, went to a payphone and called MPD. And he said, and his brother, by the way, was the dispatcher working that day, and that was his precinct. So I, meanwhile, ran up to the loop, trying to flag car. No one would stop when the guy's waving his hands on the interstate. And
I will for a thumbs up guy, though?
I don't know, but no one stopped. So I looked, and I ran to a Ramadi, and it was the only place kind of near this area of Memphis, 240 and 40. And I ran to this Ramadi, and I've showed my kids, and Susan's seen this before. I have no idea how I got there. I had to climb you had to climb the fence that had the angled spiky things. I climbed it. I went to the Ramadi, and they said, have you been in a wreck? I'm like, no, I just need a payphone. And so I got on the phone, I called the Memphis police, and they put me on hold. So I called Clay, the guy's house I was going to.
But you had dimes in your pocket for all this?
I forget how this worked. Yeah, I guess I had quarters back then, or dimes, whatever it was.
This is so funny, because I haven't had change in my pocket in
forever.
100 years.
I know. Different world. But anyway.
I love stories from this world, because it inhabits the same world I live in now.
Yeah, so just to speed up a little bit, what happened was they found my car further down the interstate. They had a guy they thought did it. I went down there. The guy was white, and this guy was not white. I got called for a lineup, same kind of thing. They were people of color. He was white. Sometimes you get confused. I'm like, I'm not confused. But what happened was the next day, I had a buddy that worked at the Commercial Appeal. So the next day it said, leap from car, incident with gunman. Bruce A. Jones, 21-year-old student, southwest of Memphis, 2000 North Parkway. And I'm thinking dorm 5, jumped out of the car. Well, the interesting thing was in the fall of 1982, a movie came out called When a Stranger Calls. And in that movie, it was about a guy that was, Why Haven't You Checked the Children? It was a scary movie, and I watched it. And he picked up a newspaper article like 10 years later, and he saw the picture of the person in it. And he went back to kind of taunt her again. And I'm thinking, this guy's going to pick the paper up. Now he knows who the heck I am, and he's going to come back. So for 3 weeks, I carried like the butter knife from the cafeteria around my pocket because it made me feel secure. I really lived my life very, very different. I was afraid. And for 3 weeks, I was afraid. I remember one specific night. Oh, by the way, at the same time in 1903 in Memphis, Tennessee, there was a hostage crisis where this militants had 2 police officers hostage for like a week and a half. So I'm watching that on TV. You can see all this psychology going in my head. People would knock on my door, and I would like jump. I would be nervous about it. I think here he is again. And one particular night, I was at my house, and I was leaving to go to a night class back at college. And my dad kind of came home, and I heard him with the keys, and then he wasn't there. And I got ready to leave, and the keys were in the door, but he wasn't there. So I called my brother and said, "Bobby, Daddy's been kidnapped." It was very obvious to me he'd been kidnapped because why else? Why not? So I assumed he was being held hostage at our neighbors' houses, and that was really weird. So you get the point that I was acting weird. Then what happened is after 3 weeks, I was asked to come speak to some high school coaches, and I was the president of FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, at Rhodes. And
where's Rhodes again?
Rhodes is in Memphis.
Oh, it's in Memphis.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And it was back then it was Southwestern in Memphis, but now it's Rhodes College. And so I had intended to look up, and I was going to read the verses in the Bible about John 10, 28, 29, about the thief comes to kill and steal and destroy.
Okay.
And by some purpose of God, I looked at Matthew 10, 28. And what Matthew 10, 28 says, verbatim, I'm making this up because you can look it up, is do not fear man, but rather fear God. Because man can't kill your body. God can kill your body and soul. So if you're going to fear someone, fear God. And I read that verse, and I'm there thinking like,
that's not what I meant. That's
well,
not what I wanted.
I was actually thinking, no, holy cow. I'm afraid of a man who can't really harm me. And if I have any belief of God at all, then I start unpacking the story and like, what are the odds that Mary Calhoun pulls up beside me in her car? And I've known her since I've moved to Memphis. What are the odds that the very exact time that I jump out of the car, that John and Rhonda Thetford and his brother works for MPD, it's almost like God's playing this little game with my life to teach me a lesson about fear and uncertainty. And so this fear that I was living in made no sense at all. Huh. And so really, it was really like scales coming off my eyes. I realized how stupid I was because I'm being afraid of someone who really can't control me or my destiny, because God's either in control or he's not God. He's not worthy of the title of God.
Right.
And so he's got to be in control of the atoms pinging around the universe to be God. And that would include the guy that could hit me or that could kill me. Now, does that mean that God reaches down and grabs the steering wheel of a car and swerves it so it hits you head on and maims you for life?
Right, because you said the car didn't go where you wanted it to go. So
Yeah,
you obviously didn't have the wheel there.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. But I think the point is that God can certainly stop things, and
Right.
God can change things. But I think that lesson I learned as a college student was about fear. And Susan would tell you, I generally don't get afraid.
Susan's your wife?
Yeah, Susan's my wife. Thank you. I don't get afraid, and it's why be afraid of things you can't control? Now, do I have stress? Absolutely, I can still have stress and try to give that up because it's hard in sales
you're
as
in
well.
like the number one stress job.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think that maybe the preparation of that is that you continually fall back and worry about things you shouldn't worry about.
Right.
If you have faith, and if you don't have faith, you should have faith. But that's another conversation.
Well,
So-
yeah. My next question was, what do you think the best sales culture you've been in is? So we'll leave that for next time, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think that, and that probably went longer, and I wasn't intending necessarily to share that story, but as it
No, it's
came up,
great.
it is a very powerful part. But I do want to go back to just close out storytelling. You remember stories. So in
Yes.
sales, have a story, and it's got to be short. That wasn't short what I just told, but
Like I said, it's the internet. You got time.
and by the way, I've told this story. I told you I have a Christian version and I have a professional version too. So professionally, I will actually say I read a book. I looked in a book and I found this wisdom in a book about what you're afraid of. So, and people that are Christians get it, and the ones that aren't, that's fine too.
Yeah.
So, but I do think that's important, though. I think stories that are relevant, that are memorable, and they're personal. I think if a personal story is all the better as well. So
Storytelling will be one of those things. We on this podcast, we talk a lot about AI, and we talk about the future of jobs. We talk about the future of like what is really the world going to look like in 10 years.
yeah,
And I think, and I ask the question point blank quite often on the podcast and otherwise, is like, what are the things that are going to be valuable in like a new economy or a new, think of the difference between the world in 1971 and then the world in 2030,
oh yeah,
38. It's going to be unreal, right? I think.
yeah.
Well, so
think about this thing about our country. We had people that we said, "I own you." It's not that long ago.
No, that was not
That's
that long
crazy.
ago. Yeah.
And now we look at it like, what the heck?
Yeah, well, we used to pay taxes to the Queen, and before that, there
Yeah.
was, and then it's not even we anymore because then your lineage is broken up into all these different nations. You can
According to 23andMe, yes.
Did you do that?
I did.
Well, pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I did it more for the health thing about finding out if I was going to have any bad diseases.
Okay.
But yeah, it is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I would recommend that if you're interested in that stuff and like where the lineage is from. That's very cool. Where I was going with that is, I think one of the things that seems to age very well is the art of storytelling.
Yeah.
Because the human being hasn't changed very much, other than size.
Yeah.
And stories transcend all these times.
They do, and they on that front is that I think there's a story in every day. There's a story that you can make a story out of. Heck, driving to your house tonight, I can make a story. I would also tell you, I look for a Swiss Army knife story, and Swiss Army knife is a story that can fit multiple situations.
Okay.
If you get one of those, you can use it many different sales examples, and it's not just this customer did this. Mm-hmm. And I think it goes back to personal stories. We actually did this today. We had a presentation at University of Massachusetts Boston, and we planned out sales call. Since you asked about, this is a really good sales call.
Okay.
This is a presentation. We're competing with two other competitors, and it's we feel like it's ours to lose, but maybe not. So we sent a guy from Civitas that graduated from University of Massachusetts Boston, and he opened the meeting up and he said, I want to tell you that when I was 15, my dad died. And so as a 15-year-old going into high school without a father, I was really lost. And I was, so I didn't pay attention to my grades. I didn't have that influence in my life. And so when it got time to go to college, I didn't have the grades to get into your school.
Right.
So I went to this community college down the street for a year. And then I came back because I wanted to go to University of Massachusetts. And I sat down with Clyde. And Clyde spent an hour with me, and that hour changed my life. And he said, and I had to work 2 jobs, and I had to pay a lot of the money because my mom didn't have the money, but I graduated from this school. And so I want to tell you that what you do matters, and we want to help you on your journey. Well, he said he got like they want to put him on promotional video now, and he had like one of the ladies like wiping her eye, and they were getting us, and it was the story. He told this, he connected with them on a personal level. It was relevant to them. It impacted what they did, and there is no way we're going to not lose. We're going to win the deal. And so it just, that's the clincher. I want the software that guy that told that story. About going here. Yeah.
Story transcends, because I'll tell you what, in the history of mankind, that story's been told in whatever the time calls for.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over again. And everyone can align with it on some level, and it'll go back, and I think it'll go a long way forward too.
You think about it, if you say it transcends. I mean, if you go back just to Jesus Christ was a storyteller. He told parables or stories.
Yep.
He just told stories, and it's kind of interesting if you think of it that way, right? And they're memorable. The best speakers are they tell stories, and you remember the stories.
Yes.
So it's just, I actually listened to Lou Holtz give a graduation talk the other day, a video on that.
Yeah, is it one of those ones that floats around on the social media sites, or did you find it on purpose?
Oh, you can find it on Google. No, just sort of Susan's brother found out he had a very short time to live, and he had put it on Facebook, and I watched it last night. And I can tell you, I remember a ton of things about Lou Holtz right now, and just talking about his journey growing up in a one-bedroom house, his being at the pinnacle of success in Notre Dame, only to get in trouble because he'd lose one game a year and they'd hated him. Like, what game? What? But
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, but again, Lou Holtz is a phenomenal storyteller, and that is to me selling. That is really the key to selling. It's finding that connection.
You know what's funny about that is that you look at Lou Holtz, and he's short, and he's got some kind of speech impediment, and he's
messed up hand.
He's not like what the world would consider an attractive person or inspirational person necessarily, but story compensates for all of these perceived inefficiencies.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's right on the point. So,
yeah.
Man, I kept you a long time, but there's plenty of great stuff here, and there's plenty more for us to talk about. We can pick this up another time.
Well, thank you.
And run it back.
All right.
All right, Bruce.
Thanks for your time.
All right.